Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the extra mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now, your host, Jackson Mummy, owner of the Celebration Bar Review.
Well, hey everybody. Welcome to episode 175 of the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. This is your host, Jackson Mummy. I'm really glad you're with us today. I hope you're having a great week and a great time of study. And I hope your holidays are going well. I'm a little amazed that we're already into December. I don't know where November went. Do you? It was just crazy. The last thing I knew when I looked up was California bar results were going to come out, and then wham, here we are. But in any event, I hope things are really good for you. And if this is your first time with us on the podcast, welcome. We're really glad to have you with us. You can always get our podcasts in a couple of different ways. Just to let you know, you can listen on Apple iTunes or iHeartRadio, or you can watch the full video by going to celebrationbarreview.com/175 for today's episode, but just put in the episode number after celebrationbarreview.com/ and you'll be able to watch the video. Now, if you're interested in hearing or watching any of the previous episodes, we've got them all on our website. If you go to our website and check out the podcast button at the top of the page, you will see the show notes and information for all the episodes going back, and 175 of them. That is amazing to me. We've been doing this now for more than 2 years. We've had some great episodes and some great conversations. And we've got another great conversation coming up today. We're going to be talking with a student who had a really interesting struggle, I think it was safe to say, and used a different strategy. We're going to be talking with Julie Miller. And what happened for Julie was that she took the Florida bar and she failed. And then she took it again, and you're going to hear there were some weird things that happened in her scores and the way the exam was handled, and I can't say that I'm surprised by that in Florida, but in any event, it was really discouraging and really difficult. But Julie had an interesting strategy. We worked together, and we decided that instead of continuing to bang her head against the Florida wall, what we'd do would be to reach out and have her take the UBE, the Uniform Bar Exam, and see what kind of a score she could get and what that would open up for her. And as you're going to hear, she got a score that enabled her to waive into, I think, 5 or 6 states, and that's in fact what she's doing. And so it's really a victory story, but it's going to sound like it's a tough one at the beginning. So I really want to encourage you to stick around for that interview. I think you're really going to like Julie and really be inspired by her approach and her mental toughness and her willingness to find a way to climb over the hurdle. So we've got that coming up for you in just a minute. Now, before I jump into the interview with Julie, I just want to let you know, if you're sitting for the bar exam in 2018, that we've got a special free live webinar that you really can't afford to miss. It's called How to Make the Next Bar Exam Your Last Bar Exam. It's the powerful, proven way to pass. And we're going to be offering it on Monday night and Thursday night. It'll be on December 11th, which I think is a Monday, at 7 p.m. Eastern, that's 4 p.m. Pacific, and then again on Thursday, December 14th, the same 2 times, 7 p.m., which would be 4 p.m. Pacific, so I guess it's the same time, not 2 times. In any event, this is a great opportunity to find out the 4 steps that you can follow to pass the bar. We're going to use a lot of stories, a lot of case studies, a lot of specific examples. And we've had literally thousands of people go through this webinar. It's totally free, and it's been life-changing for folks. But all you have to do is to register in advance. And to register, you could do that in one of a couple of ways. If you're watching today's episode on video, just scroll down this page a little ways, and you'll see the button. You can click and select your date and be all set to go there. And if you're listening to to today's podcast, just go to our webpage at celebrationbarreview.com, and at the top of the page you will see a button. Click on that, and again you can select the date. Now, if those 2 dates don't work for you, or if you just can't wait until the next time we give the webinar live, there is an on-demand option as well. You can check that out. We offer on-demand every night at 7 p.m. in your time zone, so we try to make that as convenient as possible. Same great material, same offers, same information, just in a pre-recorded format. So no matter how you get this material, make sure that you get it. It can make a huge difference for you if you're taking the bar exam in 2018, and it's completely free. So we hope you'll join us for that. Now, one last note before we jump into the interview today. If my words are a little tired and if I look a little drawn out, it's because we just finished our first photo reading live boot camp here in Celebration, Florida over the past weekend, and it was an incredible success. We had sold out. There was no more room left. The folks who came from literally around the United States, from California and Washington State, and from the Midwest, and from Florida and Georgia and Texas, and I mean just all over the place. And we worked hard. It was great. We were assisted by Millicent St. Clair, one of the leading trainers from Learning Strategies Incorporated. She is an expert in photo reading, and she guided this group through photo reading. We dived into that. We looked at the specific tool of mind maps. I've got a lot more to say about that coming up in the next few weeks. And we did then some intensive boot camp work. We went through essay writing and multiple choice tests and performance tests, and it was awesome. Literally, we couldn't get people to leave when we were done. It was amazing. We learned a lot. It was great. It was great fun. For me, it was a blast to meet so many of my students live and in person. I realized that they're all much bigger than they appear on their internet screens, so that was really something. But we had a great time. And, the number one comment that came back was, look, you got to do more of these boot camps. Maybe you got to do some advanced ones, but we got to have more of this stuff. And everybody loves Celebration. It's a magic little town. Obviously, Disney built it. And at Christmas time, it was very special. So we are going back to the drawing board to figure out how we can do more of these sessions. Stick around and listen for information. We'll announce it here first, but we will do more. And boy, it was amazing. We videotaped all of it. So I know we're going to take some excerpts of that and make it available in the upcoming weeks. It was a great opportunity to see how this tool of photo reading can be used to improve and enhance your ability to take the bar. And I can tell you, everyone that was in this boot camp walked away feeling energized, enthusiastic, and with a whole set of tools that they know that they can use to improve their scores and give them the chance of success on the exam. So I'm really, really excited. I wanted to thank everybody that attended. I know we had some people that wanted to attend and we just ran out of space. So we won't make that mistake again. In any event, it was great, and I'm a little tired, but really, really super pumped that we got to do this. So I appreciate it. Well, having said all that, now I wanted to switch gears and go to our interview with Julie Miller, because she is really a terrific young woman. She's done so much right, and I really wanted to be able to let her share her story and for you to see what it means to just keep at it in order to get your life back, and that's what Julie did. So let's jump into our discussion with Julie Miller. Well, hey everybody, welcome back to Hanging Out with Successful Bar Exam Takers. And we have a really interesting story today, a little bit different than some of our other interviews, but one that I think you're going to find incredibly helpful and encouraging. With us today is Julie Miller. Hi, Julie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Your situation is very different in the sense that you sat for a bar exam and you didn't quite hit that goal. But because of the uniform bar exam, you're actually going to take your score to another jurisdiction and become a member of the Missouri bar, correct?
Yes.
So congratulations. That's really cool. And we could just talk about the fact that you're going into Missouri and you're going to be a member of that bar, and that would be a great, great story. But I asked you specifically to join me in this interview because I wanted to talk about the journey you've been on, because it had some bumps along the way, and what you've accomplished and the strategy that you took and how we got to where we are today. So we sort of started with the end. Now we're going to back our way up. And so I'd love it if you would just tell our audience a little bit about yourself and kind of how your journey with the bar exam began.
Okay. Well, as Jackson already said, my name's Julie. I went to Florida Coastal School of Law. I graduated last year in July. I sat for the Florida bar. I unfortunately didn't pass the Florida bar. Then I sat for the Florida bar again in February. Unfortunately didn't pass again. So I decided to take the New York bar. I'm originally from New York. What I want to do in terms of law is I want to be in-house counsel, corporate counsel, something along those lines, not necessarily be in the courtroom. I don't want to be a prosecutor or a defense attorney. So I figured taking the UBE would be my best option. As long as I get those letters behind my name, I think my whole outlook would be better.
Yeah. And so you're still in Florida, right? Living in
Yeah,
Florida?
I'm still in Florida. I'm in South Florida.
Okay. So just to sort of back it up for everybody, you went to a law school that doesn't have a great track record on the bar exam, candidly.
Right.
And you came into the course and you worked hard on the bar, right? I mean, can you talk a little bit about that first try on the Florida bar?
Sure. I started the program a little early. I was still working on studying for my finals and thinking about it now, maybe that wasn't the best time to start studying because I was kind of distracted. All of my friends at that point were taking the big box bar review, and our school had actually paid the students to take that kind of thing. Like, so we didn't have to pay out of pocket. It was inclusive.
Right.
I did the best that I could. I was working 2 jobs at the time, and I didn't know what I was going into when I was taking the exam. And I bought the photo reading package, and I had some trouble with it to begin with. And Jackson, you know that because I even told you, it's like, I don't think I'm doing this right. I think I was focusing too much on the whole photo reading process itself and not just letting it go.
Yeah. And letting it go is really critical with photo reading, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So towards the end, like the last couple of weeks of studying, my scores started going down, and I had a lot going on at that time also, but I also had friends influencing me of, well, here, try this practice exam or try this. And I think it all, putting everything together collectively, like ended up, that was the reason why I didn't pass.
Yeah, I think you were in a really difficult physical and emotional space right before the exam. It was really tough for you, and I think it's a good sort of object lesson for people that too much input sometimes is bad, right? I mean, too many voices in your ear saying do this or do that, and you were getting a lot of those, and your law school was pretty aggressive in what they wanted to say, and,
Right.
so there's a lot going on. Now, you know, you also went in and then did the best you could do. And you didn't miss by very much, did you?
No, I don't recall what my first score was, but I want to say it was within 5 points.
Yeah. So
overall.
So reasonably close. So the results come back. It's disappointing. What's your thought process? You've taken it. You've failed by the 5 points. You've had this experience. Now what?
I sulked for a couple of weeks because it's just one of those feelings. It's you can't describe it unless you experience it.
Yeah.
And it was just I was very, very hard on myself in comparison to all of my family and friends that they're like, you'll get it next time. And, but I always try the best that I can and I push forward. And I decided after those 2 weeks or so of moping in my own sorrows that I was going to take it again. I wasn't off by that far and I knew the material. I didn't apply it right is the whole thing.
Okay. So emotionally getting back in to study that second time, pretty tough, wasn't it?
It was. But the positive on that was quite a few of my friends that were the voices in my ear, they had already passed. So I didn't have them saying, oh, you should do this, you should do that. And it was better in that aspect. But jumping back on board, it was difficult. Yeah. But once I got in the transition, it became a lot easier. It was the whole scheduling since I had just moved. I had started my new full-time job. It was not legal-based at all. My prior job was, so I felt like at least I had some kind of legal knowledge when I would go to work and then I would come home and I'd be able to transition pretty well. And it was different this time.
Yeah. And did you use photo reading the second time?
I did, and I didn't stress the whole method that Mr. Shealy had gone through, and you learn to adapt to your own method with photo reading, and I figured that out the second time around.
Yeah, so it felt more comfortable, a little more natural.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, okay. So now you sit for the bar a second time, and what happens?
Well, during the bar the second time, I had gone in for day one, and my computer had some glitches at the end of that day. I went to upload, and my essays were not uploaded until after the deadline. So I was in panic mode and had to arrive to the exam on day 2 early to speak to exam soft reps and all of that. And they assured me everything was fine. Yeah. That kind of threw me off to begin with.
So it was a late night on Tuesday night for you, wasn't it? As I recall, you were like in high panic mode on Tuesday night because of the upload problem, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And then going in on Wednesday in the morning, I had that whole sigh of relief because they said everything was fine. But then during the afternoon in Florida, they ask if anybody has a defective Scantron, all of that, please raise your hand. I, of all of these, 3,000 students, had a tear in my Scantron. So they came down, they issued me a new Scantron, new test booklet, I'm filling everything out. Then in the middle of that, they came back down again, gave me a new Scantron again because they said that it didn't match. And
for the third time, right?
For the third time.
Right. Now, for those that don't understand, what Julie's talking about here is that there's a form of each exam. So Julie's taking the afternoon MBE, but the people on either side of her have the same 100 questions, but in different orders. So there's a different form of the Scantron. And in order to know which Scantron matches up to which booklet, there is a coding process. So there's 3 versions of the Scantron. They gave you started with version 1, they gave you version 2. That doesn't do you any good. You have to go back to version 1, right? So now you're third time into it, right?
Right. And at that point, I figured, I was the only one in there that happened to. They had it all taken care of. I didn't say anything afterwards. I figured it was fine.
Yeah.
So I waited so many weeks, received my results, and lo and behold, my score on the MBE was the lowest that I have scored, whether based on my practices, the prior exam, all of that.
Didn't make any sense. So here's the object lesson for other people. And it's not that we're trying to use Julie as the object lesson, but here you go. If something weird happens to you at the exam, okay, the best advice is to file a formal written protest of the scoring at the site before you leave. It's really intimidating. In a state like Florida, they don't make it easy at all. There's no one suggests that to you. No one even offers that opportunity. You have to go to Michelle Gravani basically and say, I am protesting this and I want to write it down and put it into writing. Because, as you discovered when you got your scores back, what could you do about it?
Nothing. I mean, I did end up sending my written letter saying, I'm going to pay you to rescore this, hand score it. I pinpointed all of the issues that I had during the exam, and pretty much in the nicest terms possible, it was tough luck and we'll hand score it, and that's about it.
Yeah, sucks to be you. And so you don't get anything. And so this is really, this was just devastating news because I knew how hard you'd worked, and I knew my sense was you were ready to pass the second time. You had set yourself up well. There was no reason to think of it differently. And the multi-state score just didn't make any sense. I mean, it was a weirdly off score, which still makes me think that the version of the Scantron may not have been ready. Okay, so now you've spent a year taking the Florida bar unsuccessfully. I imagine there's a part of you at this point, Julie, that's thinking maybe I should just give up entirely. Maybe this is not for me.
No, I did have those thoughts, especially since, like I said, I moved down to South Florida. I started a job that doesn't require you to pass the bar. It's a legal alternative career, and there's really no incentive for me to pass it. It was more, it's for me.
Right.
But I had those thoughts, and...
Well, but you didn't. You went on. Yeah. So I'd like to kind of dive into where did you find the desire and the drive to do this again? When we're not even talking about which jurisdiction yet. We're just saying, I'm just going to get back into it again. What was the process in your mind at that point?
Well, it was more of I went to law school. I've been so focused on this since I was a teen. I want to be an attorney. I don't want to just sit at my job, no offense to them. I don't want to just be there for the rest of my life.
Sure.
I want to practice. And in order to practice, I have to have some type of license. So.
Okay. So you kind of steel yourself. Now what? Are you going to sit for the Florida bar exam again or do something different?
Well, I was toying with the idea, and that's when I gave you a call, and I mentioned the whole UBE idea and how I'm from New York originally and my whole career path and what I'd like to do. And you were actually the person that kind of helped me with that decision because I was on the fence of what I was going to do. So
the reason that I suggested it was that it seemed to me that you were perfectly capable of passing, but that Florida was now in your head. It was going to be really tough to make that work for you all as much as we wanted it to. And since you didn't need to be in a courtroom in Florida, why not give yourself the widest opportunity in terms of scoring? And since you're from New York, you could sit for the uniform bar exam, and that score would be transferable across the country in now over 30 jurisdictions, I think, depending on what you got. So if New York has a passing score of 266, if we were putting Florida on the same kind of a scale, I guess we would say Florida's score was 272, so 136 on each side, but very different exams. So not fair really to compare them, but you needed a 266 in New York. So now you're ready to go back and you start to study for the New York UBE exam in July of 2017. Can you talk a little bit about what that study process was like?
Sure. So I was still working full time, and my whole schedule would consist of I would go to work, I would come home, I would study for a few hours, and that was pretty much every day of the week, except for on weekends, I would study more. What I found easier with studying for the UBE was I didn't have to differentiate between state law and common law or, federal rules of evidence, something of that nature. Right. So for me, I felt it was more of a sigh of relief in a way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to not have all the Yankee go home questions and the nuances of Florida law and the nitpicky stuff. So that definitely helped. Did you use photo reading this time?
I did.
Yeah. So now you're kind of into the photo reading. You're photo reading your outlines. Some of them are repeat because it's multi-state, but there's some subjects you haven't seen before that are on the UBE that aren't on the Florida exam. So there's a little bit, conflicts of law. There's some things that are a little different. And then there's some things like domestic relations that are generic in the UBE versus Florida law specifically, right? Or procedure, which is federal. So that process is a little different. And you've had these couple of exams behind you. You studied for probably about 3 months, 3.5 months, right? And nights and weekends, right? Plus the full-time job.
Right.
What's going on? What's going through your mind during this process?
It was exhausting.
Yeah.
But the more that I photo read and the more that I went over the material, I realized more so. I knew it. It was just more of a review. It wasn't gaining substantive material. It was I knew this. I wish I would have applied it better.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're ready. It's time to go up to New York. Did you take the test at the Javits Center or were you at another location?
I flew up to Buffalo. I had a friend that lives in Buffalo. So, yeah.
Buffalo in July, folks, is a lot better than Buffalo in February. Just saying.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, and that's a little smaller location too.
Different, like set up there in comparison to Florida.
Talk about that a little bit, would you?
There's a lot of people. There were more people I felt that were in that building, but they were separated into different areas of the building. Yeah. They provided box lunches that you could prepay for, so you wouldn't have to leave for lunch or any of that. They didn't have the metal detectors that they do in Florida. And it was more lenient when it came to if you have to use the restroom or anything of that sort.
Yeah, the whole checking in, checking out, raising your hands.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The proctors weren't coming over and leaning into your face during the whole time?
No, and actually on the last day, one of the proctors came over and she was handing out lollipops for everybody. We were allowed to bring water and a snack that was a non-crunchy snack.
There you go. Oh. Okay. So it is possible to run a bar exam in a humane way. Yes. New York has proven that. Many other states have. Florida, you might want to take note. All right. Now, you sit for the exam, 2-day test. You've used the skills. Now you're waiting. What's the waiting like at this point?
Oh, the waiting on this exam was brutal because our results didn't come out until the last week of October. Yeah. So I have all my friends that took the Florida exam. I have friends that took different state exams. My friend that took Missouri, she got her results, and I'm just still in limbo.
Yeah. And the way that New York does bar results is that without warning, one night at midnight, you get a little pop-up in your email, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I had received mine probably around 11:45 on, I believe
Okay.
it was a Tuesday.
Yeah, so I call it my spidey sense. I had a spidey sense that day that the results were going to come out. Turns out my spidey sense was right. The numbers come out. Now, this is where normally we'd say, boy, what that moment of great elation and joy. But it wasn't that for you, was it?
No.
No.
In the first paragraph, it was, you have not passed the New York exam. Your score is 260. Okay. And as you already stated, the minimum score is a 266.
Okay.
So it was a brief moment of defeat, but knowing that I received a 260, I was still eligible to waive into 5 or 6 other states.
Aha.
So essentially, I did pass.
You did pass. And that's the point of this interview, folks, okay? It's taken us, 15 minutes to get here, but this is what I really wanted to share with you. In that moment, Julie, when you saw that it wasn't 266, you're understandably disappointed. But now you see 260, and you were smart enough to know that the original strategy going in was, we're aiming for 266, but we're going to be happy with 260 or better, right? I mean, we had talked about that as a real possibility. And so this is a weird thing, because typically we think of bar exams as you pass or you fail, nothing in between. Right. But with the UBE, we've got something very different going on here. So you didn't get the New York part, but with a 260, Missouri's open to you. I forget all the other states, but I think there are 5 or 6.
Dakota, yeah.
Yeah.
North Dakota, Minnesota.
Minnesota, that's one of them. Yeah, right.
New Mexico, Alabama.
Okay. So now the cool part of the UBE is that you take your scores. I'm going to get to the bad part in a minute. The good part is you get to take your scores and you get to apply right over to those jurisdictions, right? Here I am. Here's my score. I can waive in. The bad part is you got to pay a fee, right?
Yes. Pay a fee, go through the entire character and fitness process again, do the fingerprints, all of that good stuff.
Yeah. And you're in that process right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you're not a member of the Missouri bar, as we talked today, but you will be. And we're going to get that picture. I know you're going to send us that picture where you've got your hand up and you're swearing the oath. What is that going to feel like to you when you've done that? When you go to Missouri and you take the oath?
It'll feel real, because as of right now, I never even said anything on Facebook. I've told a few people, I didn't pass New York, but I'm waiving in. I did pass the UBE. Right. So it's difficult because I didn't pass the jurisdiction I wanted, but I did pass the UBE. So it's
Well, I think that cat's going to be out of the bag now, Julie. These videos get a lot of views.
That's true.
But see, here's the point that I really want to make. I think, and I said this to Julie before we went live today, I think we should be celebrating this success. This is a success. You passed a bar exam. You will be a member of the bar. And with your Missouri bar license and practice for a period of years, you can waive in a bunch of places. Right. And if you wanted to sit for the Florida bar again, God forbid that should happen, but if you did, you would be going in as a member of the bar, not as someone who's, it's a, all or nothing, situation. We've had the chance to work with a number of people in the last couple of years who've had exactly that circumstance and who've gone back to take a bar, whether it's Florida or California, New York, whatever it is, with the bar membership now tucked under their belt and going, oh, this felt different. I mean, it's just, that part is over. And so I want to just use your story to encourage people who are thinking, oh man, what should I do? Was it in retrospect, are you glad you did it this way, that you went to New York and did the UBE?
Absolutely. In a way, I kind of wish I would have done the UBE first.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it might have been better for you under the circumstances. And truthfully, do you expect anyone's going to ask, did you take the New York bar, fail, and then waive in to Missouri? You expecting that question often?
No, I'm just hoping it doesn't get called into question with my character and fitness.
It won't. It won't.
Yeah,
that I'm pretty sure. No, they're going to look at it and go, yeah, no problem. And I know you to be a person of high character, so I don't think we've got any problem there. But I think the real key is that you can celebrate that you actually have made this goal happen. And now you can start moving forward, right? I mean, there are things that you would like to do as a member of the bar. and where it doesn't matter where you are. I mean, you're not moving to Missouri, correct?
Mm-mm.
I mean,
As far as I know, no.
Yeah, you could. I mean, but we've had people who've waived into Minnesota and they didn't move to Minnesota or Missouri or North Dakota or some of these other states. And they're able to do the work they want to do, and that's really the key, isn't it? Is just having the job opportunities and the prospects in your career. Well, what advice would you give someone who is kind of feeling that discouragement that you had through the process? What would you say to them at this stage?
Don't give up. Mope as much as you need to. Give it those 2 weeks or so, but pick yourself back up. You didn't go to law school for no reason. You went to law school because you want to be an attorney. And if you apply yourself, you follow the methods, you let it go, you'll succeed.
Yeah. And I think I think that people can really take comfort in knowing that sometimes the direct path it's not the only path, and there's other ways to get to the goal, right? You know, if I were looking for an attorney, I think I would want someone who perseveres, who fights, who doesn't give up. I think I'm looking for Julie Miller. I'm looking for that person who just says, I'm going to grind my way through it. There may be some hardships. I think you had every bad thing that could have happened to you on that second try in Florida happen.
Yeah.
And it's an unfair result in that sense. And yet, you did mope and you were really disappointed and really frustrated. And that's always a point where I think, is somebody going to give up or not? And you just really decided to grind and get in there and go for it and continue using the skills. I mean, I'm really thrilled that you used photo reading all the way through. You stayed with it. You got better and better and better at it. And listen, folks, a 260 is nothing to sneeze at. That's a darn good score. And so, we know that this will work if you just give yourself the chance, and you gave yourself the chance there. So I'm really proud of you. And I want to say that publicly. I've said it to you privately, but I want to say publicly how proud I am of you for not giving up and for sticking with it. And it must feel, I know it's a little weird because you haven't sworn in yet, but it must feel like a big burden is off of you. Like, oh my God, I don't have to study for the bar anymore.
Yeah, because it felt like every time a result would come out, it's like, oh, I have to do this again. Oh, I have to do this again. So it was like a continuous study process. And now it's nice to be able to come home, go work out, do something of that sort, and not have to focus on studying all over again.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the great thing is you're young. You've got a great career ahead of you. You've got a lot that you're going to be able to do. I think this is going to be very exciting to see what you do and how you do it. And I really do want to get that picture of you getting sworn in. I think that's going to be a great keepsake for everybody. So I really appreciate you coming on today. I know it's not easy to talk about when everything isn't rainbows and unicorns. But I do know that your story will resonate with a lot of people, and it will encourage and inspire a lot of people. And I think the strategy you took was so smart, and not just because it was my strategy, but in your case, it just worked out really to be a good strategy. So I'm glad we could share that with other people today. And I suspect there may be some people thinking, maybe that's what I should be doing. So there you go, right? Anything else you want to share with our audience before we finish up today? You good? All right.
Just don't give up.
Yeah. Yeah, don't give up. That's it, man. Don't give up. Keep grinding, keep working, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Well, Julie, thanks so much for being with us. It's been fun to see you and catch up with you. And thanks to all of you in the audience for sharing your time with us today. And I know that all of you join me in congratulating Julie and looking forward to great success. So we'll say goodbye for now. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. It's an amazing story, isn't it? And Julie is just, I think, fabulous. And I love the fact that she is just so determined and she just would not give up. She found her way around it. And I think a lot of people might have just given up after that second try with all the things that went wrong. And, finding that strategy of taking the UBE really made good sense. And I hope that if you're in a situation where you're really frustrated, that you consider this as an option and a strategy. As the Uniform Bar Exam expands, and we've just gotten word that North Carolina is being added to the roster, it looks like Maryland's going to come on board for the UBE. I think Illinois is going to come on for the UBE. I mean, we're getting really up there. I mean, probably close to 40 states that are uniform bar exam administrations. That is an incredible number of jurisdictions that you now can use and choose from. And I think we're finally beginning to get to a point of portability and, frankly, probably a more equitable test. And so I think this is really great news. And if you want to know more about it, I invite you to contact us. We'll be glad to talk with you about that strategy and how we might be able to assist you. Well, again, want to remind all of you that we've got our special webinar coming up on Monday, December 11th and Thursday, December 14th. How to make the next bar exam your last bar exam. Just make sure that you claim your seat in advance by going to our website or scrolling down on the video page. We'll get you enrolled and get you all set, and then we'll see you at 7 p.m. Eastern on Monday or Thursday. Hope everybody has a great rest of their week. Look forward to talking to you again next week along the Extra Mile. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at www.celebrationbarreview.com.